Welcome to Module 3, Download, View, or Delete Data. Click Next to begin the tutorial. After a survey is activated and participants have been furnished with the URL and password, if necessary, data begins to accumulate in the database as participants complete the survey. In this module, you will learn how to manage data options, download survey data in a variety of file formats, download registrant data, and delete data. Click Next to begin the tutorial. You can move directly to a particular section of the tutorial by clicking on the section title. Click Next to continue with Section 1, Data Options. In the Data Options section, you will learn how to choose if certain collected data is extracted. This data includes linking ID, respondent ID, and IP address. Click Next to continue. Watch the following video demonstration. The video will advance automatically, but you can use the tools at the bottom of the screen to rewind, pause, or skip ahead as needed. Select the data link of the survey you want to download data from. The Data Download, View, or Delete page appears. The Time Elapsed feature allows you to examine the amount of time the participant took to complete the survey. The date and time started, date and time of last submission, and the number of seconds to complete the survey will be displayed in your data file. Knowing the time elapsed allows you to examine participants who took too much or too little time to complete the survey. Please note that selecting the radio button automatically updates your data options without pressing a Submit button. We will look at the Display the IP address option next. Choosing to display the IP address of participants in the data file shows you if many surveys are being taken from the same computer network. Now let's learn about the linking ID and respondent ID. The linking ID is an ID that is auto-generated and used to link data between surveys. The linking ID is always collected, but this option determines whether or not it is downloaded with your data. Selecting Yes here will display the linking ID with the rest of your downloaded data. Remember that including the linking ID with your dataset enables you to match participants' responses between linked surveys. The respondent ID is a randomly generated numeric identification code that is unique to each and every survey, regardless if they are linked. Checking Yes displays the respondent ID at the end of the survey and enables you to view this ID with the rest of your data. However, it cannot be used to match participants' responses between linked surveys. This can be used for a variety of other purposes, though. For example, you could create a page that a participant prints out with their respondent ID as proof of their participation. A key difference between these two types of IDs is that the respondent ID cannot be used to automatically connect a participant's responses between linked surveys, while the linking ID can be used to connect them. However, respondent IDs can be used for other linking purposes, such as Time 1, Time 2, couples, parents, etc. For example, you may have one survey that you'd like participants to take at different times. The participants will take the survey before starting treatment, during treatment, and after treatment. They are taking the same survey every time, but you would like to examine the way their responses change over time. You can match these participants' surveys by recording their respondent IDs. To display the participant's respondent ID number on the survey, when adding questions to the survey, select the respondent ID number and link for printing link. This is discussed in more detail in Module 4, Question Types. Now the participant's respondent ID will be displayed at the top of the survey. However, a new respondent ID number is generated every time the survey is taken. We want the participants of this survey to save their original respondent ID number and record that same number when they take the survey again later. Therefore, we will create a question where the respondent can enter their ID. The Add Question or Text page appears. Selecting the one-line answer 10-character limit link enables the participant to enter their number in a free response format up to 10 digits. The free response page appears. Select the text box and enter the prompt. And select the checkbox to make this a required question. Now let's look at it from a participant's perspective. The first time the participant takes the survey, he or she receives and records or prints the respondent ID. Now he or she enters the respondent ID number and the information is saved with your data. He or she will enter the respondent ID number they received the first time they take the survey, and the information is saved with your data so you can match the participants across different time points. It's a good idea to remove the respondent ID generator box from your survey before your participants take the survey a second time to avoid confusion. Participants may misplace or misremember their respondent ID number, so you may want to ask other types of questions that will help you match the participant across time points. For example, maybe ask them to generate an ID code that is made up of their mother's initials and the last 4 digits of their phone number. In the Downloading Survey Data section, you will learn how to download your collected responses into various file formats, including SPSS, Microsoft Excel, TabDelimited, and comma-separated values. To download your survey data into SPSS, from the Manage Surveys page, locate your survey and select the data link. The Data Download View or Delete page appears. First, locate the Download Survey Data heading. We're going to download our data to SPSS. Simply click the Download Survey Data button. A file download box opens. The data file automatically opens or downloads as a compressed or zip file. If you choose Open, remember that this is only creating a temporary file. If you make changes to your SPSS file, make sure that you save it to your computer, not to a temporary file. To avoid the temporary file, we're going to save directly from this box by clicking the Save button. The Save As box opens. Choose your destination and click the Save button. Once the file has been saved, open it as you usually would. Remember, you don't need SPSS in order to download the data file. However, to open it, you will need the SPSS software. We have opened the file in SPSS. Notice that PsychData creates columns for each question, with the question as the column title. If you choose the variable view, we can see the characteristics of the columns or variables in the data file. Notice the values column has the codes already labeled. For example, 1 equals male and 2 equals female for the gender question. PsychData automatically codes the choices from the top down or left to right starting with 1. So you may need to recode your data before creating variables or analyzing your data. For example, you may have asked participants to answer an item on a scale from 0 to 5, but in your data file it will be labeled from 1 to 6. Now let's download the data into Microsoft Excel. From the Manage Surveys page in PsychData, locate your survey and select the data link. The Data Download View or Delete page appears. Next, we will download our data to Microsoft Excel. The Excel version 2002 option is limited to 256 columns and will generate multiple sheets of data for a survey if there are more than 256 variables. The Excel 2007 version does not have this limitation. Click the Download Survey Data button. A file download box opens. Again, the data file automatically opens or downloads as a compressed or zip file. If you choose Open, remember that it is only creating a temporary file. If you make changes to your Excel file, make sure that you save it to your computer and not to the temporary file. To avoid the temporary file, we're going to save directly from this box by clicking the Save button. Choose your destination and save. Once the file has been extracted from the zip file and saved, open it as you usually would open an Excel file. Remember, while you don't have to have Excel to download the data, you will need Excel on your computer to open the file. The question or variable names are listed on row 1. And each row contains one respondent's answers to the survey. Now let's download the survey data into TabDelimited format. From the Manage Surveys page, locate your survey and select the data link. The Download View or Delete Data page appears. The TabDelimited format separates the data columns by tabs, and it can be used to import into SPSS, Excel, or other programs. Select the TabDelimited format and click the Download Survey Data button. Again, a file download box opens. The TabDelimited does not open or download as a compressed or zip file. However, if you choose Open, it is still only creating a temporary file. So if you make changes to your data file, make sure that you have it saved to your computer and not to the temporary file. Remember, to avoid the temporary file, we're going to save directly from this box by clicking the Save button. Again, the Save As box opens. Choose your destination and click the Save button. The TabDelimited opens as a text file in Notepad, but can also be imported into many other programs. Notice the top of the file contains the questions or variable names, and each row contains one respondent's answers to the survey. Now let's download the survey data into CSV or comma-separated values format. From the Manage Surveys page, locate your survey and select the data link. The Data Download View or Delete page appears. The comma-separated values format can also be imported into many different programs, including SPSS and Excel, and each value is separated by a comma. Select the comma-separated values and click the Download Survey Data button. Again, a file download box opens. The data file automatically opens in Excel. If you choose Open, remember that it's only creating a temporary file. If you make changes to your data file, make sure that you save it to your computer and not to the temporary file. Remember, to avoid the temporary file, we're going to save directly from this box by clicking the Save button. Again, the Save As box opens. Choose your destination and click the Save button. CSV will typically open in Excel, but may be imported into other software programs. Notice the top of the file contains the questions or variable names, and each row contains one respondent's answers to the survey. In the Downloading Registrant Data section, you will learn how to download the registrant's data for identification, contact, or incentive purposes. This can include the login ID, a nickname, email address, or any other information that you had previously chosen to collect through the Settings menu. From the Manage Surveys page, locate your survey and select Data. The Data Download View or Delete page appears. Registrant data can only be downloaded if the Save and Return feature from the Settings menu is turned on prior to collecting data. Let's quickly review how to verify that before we proceed. From the Manage Surveys page, click the Settings link. Again, to collect registrant data, the Save and Return feature must be on before participants take the survey. Remember, you choose the information you'd like participants to provide before they take the survey. Now let's download our registrant's data. This can be done in two different ways. First, we will see it in TabDelimited format, which works best for SPSS because there can be any number of columns. Click the Download Registrant Data button. The file download box opens. Again, if you choose Open, remember that it's only creating a temporary file. If you make changes to your file, make sure that you save it to your computer and not to the temporary file. We emphasize this because it's a simple and common error that can set researchers back many hours of work. It is best to completely avoid the temporary file by saving directly to our location by clicking the Save button. Again, the Save As box opens. Choose your destination and click the Save button. Open it as you usually would open a file, and the registrant data opens in Notepad. Now let's look at the data in a CSV delimited format, which is best used with Microsoft Excel. Select the CSV option and click the Download Registrant Data button. The file download box opens. Again, if you choose Open, remember that it's only creating a temporary file. If you make changes to your file, make sure that you save it to your computer and not to the temporary file. To avoid the temporary file, we're going to save directly from this box by clicking the Save button. Again, the Save As box opens. Choose your destination and click the Save button. Open it as you usually would open a file. Again, we can see the registrant data. In the Deleting Data section, you will learn how to delete participant data from your survey without deleting the actual survey. This will remove the data completely, so always make sure that you've backed up your data. Click Next to continue with the tutorial. In this example, we are deleting the responses from Sample Survey 2. Currently, this survey contains 4 responses. To delete these responses, select the data link, and the Data Download or Delete page appears. The Delete Data from Survey section is at the bottom of the page. Click the Delete Data button, and a confirmation page appears. If you are sure that you want to permanently delete all of the registrant data and have backed up your data, click the Delete Data button. This confirms the deletion of the participant's data. We can also confirm this by selecting the My Surveys link. The PsychData Online Surveys page appears. There are now no responses for this survey. In the Merging in SPSS section, you will learn how to merge 2 SPSS files into one. This is useful when you have multiple surveys linked together and you'd like to match the responses between surveys to create one data set. You will need to have SPSS on your computer as well as downloaded your surveys into SPSS format from PsychData. Remember that in order to match participants across data files, you must have set up an ID question each survey or download the linking ID. Click Next to continue with the tutorial. After opening each of our data files, we need to sort the data in all of the data files by the matching variable, in this case, respondent ID. In this example, there are 2 separate surveys that were linked together on PsychData, and we want to combine the files by matching the respondent ID numbers. To sort the data, select the Data menu in SPSS. Then select the Sort Cases menu item. The Sort Cases dialog box opens. Select the matching variables, which in this case is respondent ID. Then click the arrow button to move the variable over to the Sort By box. The variable has been moved. Then click the OK button. Now the data is sorted by respondent ID. We repeat the sort process in the second data set by selecting the Data menu. Then Sort Cases, and moving the respondent ID variable from the left to right box. And click OK. Now the data has been sorted by ID in both files. We are ready to merge the files. Remember that the variable that you're merging the files together with needs to be named exactly the same in all your data sets. In this example, we're going to merge dataset 2 into dataset 1. In the dataset 1 file, select the Data menu. Go to Merge Files and select the Add Variables item. The Add Variable box opens. Locate the other dataset that you want to merge with the current dataset. If the dataset is already open, it will appear in the Open Dataset box. If it's not already open, then click on an external SPSS data file and click Browse. Select the second dataset from your computer and click Open. Then click the Continue button. The Add Variables From dialog opens. Select the Match Cases on Key Variables in Sorted Files box. Ensure that both files provide cases is selected. Select the matching variable, in this case, respondent ID. Then click the arrow to move the variable to the Key Variables box. And click the OK button. This warning is a reminder to sort your data by matching variables before you reach this point. Click the OK button. The 2 files have merged into one. Now that we have matched the participants' responses between the linked surveys, we can view all responses in one data set. These questions were part of our first data set, and these questions were part of our second data set. Notice how SPSS will leave the cells blank if the ID only occurred in one of the 2 data sets. Remember to save the merged data sets into a new file name. Go to File and Save As, and save the merged dataset under a new file name. we have successfully created the merged dataset. Congratulations, you have completed Module 3. Go to PsychData.com to continue with other tutorials.